Okay. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Better.
Wait, will I play a riff?
Just play something. You can play in some new way, undiscovered yet.
That is a piece from, that is the first single released by Mike Oldfield back in
Cool.
1973, so
Cool.
which is a riff from his famous Tubular Bells album.
Cool. So, I will start with very interesting first question. Do you know the film Baraka?
I do.
So, could it be that your film Pushtar that you showed yesterday is inspired directly by this film or indirectly, but somehow?
I think Baraka is more influential on me than I realized at first, because when Baraka emerged, first of all, I was hugely influenced by Koyaanisqatsi. Are you familiar with Koyaanisqatsi, Powakatsi, and Nagoykatsi? They're a triptych by Godfrey Reggio, with Philip Glass soundtracks. They're very. They were influential for us in college as painters. They were very popular for a while. So when Baraka came along in the early 90s, we saw Baraka as something that was building on the Koyaanisqatsi trilogy, but that it had a kind of an ethnic or world angle on it that Koyaanisqatsi didn't, because Koyaanisqatsi was very traditional, and it was very urban. So we saw Baraka as an expansion on that, and I think it might have been made by somebody that did work on a Koyaanisqatsi. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the filmmaker. So when I saw Baraka in the early 90s, first of all, I didn't connect with it that much, but when it was screening, it was circulating in Ireland again 2 years ago, and it was actually screened back to back with my own previous film. And when I saw it again, I realised that it had actually influenced me more subliminally than I realised, and that maybe now that I'm older, I actually prefer Baraka to Koyaanisqatsi, even though Koyaanisqatsi, it was kind of an original.
The answer is yes, like clearly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying to search for this film today, and I finally realized, like yesterday after our conversation, what film like reminds me your film the most, and I realized that this is Baraka, and I was trying to search because I forgot the name actually today, and I found, and then I like recalled the shots from the film, and I realized that this is it. So not the Space Odyssey 2001, and not like Lynch movies, but this.
Yeah, well, you see, I would distinguish between what filmmakers have influenced me and what films have influenced me, because there are two things going on. I mean, a film is in a huge way, a film is the product of a particular person's vision, but it can also take on its own quality. Mm-hmm. So if I was talking about people like Kubrick and Lynch, I would be talking about them, that there aren't specific films of theirs that have influenced me. It's just more their overall kind of vision. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, Baraka has very specific images that that do always come through, and in fact, one of the early scenes in Pushtar, if we had more time to work with choreographing, I would have, and work on costumes, I would have had them spinning more dramatically, which would have recalled visually some of the scenes in Baraka a little bit more. But I had them turning a little bit, slower.
So you're trying actually to replicate like Baraka movement?
Well, no, I mean, it crossed my mind, but I didn't in the end. Maybe for that reason, I didn't want it to.
Because why should you like copy, right?
Exactly.
Baraka. Yeah. You have your own vision, your way. So okay, so then just tell me like in general something about something that you consider the most important about you.
Well, the most important thing about me, do you mean? Well, I suppose the most important thing about any artist is that you have your own unique viewpoint. That exactly as we were discussing, we can talk about what we've been influenced by, but in what way we have changed what has influenced us into something else. You know, I would like to think that the scenes that we're talking about in Pushtar are something quite separate to what might have influenced them from Baraka. So, yeah.
No, this is not about Baraka. This is like separate question.
Can you repeat the question?
So actually, as far as I understand, the most important thing about you is yourself, right?
Yeah, that's as that was the gist of our conversation last night, and I think that's what I was trying to say is that it is the art, you know, it is the artist that makes that makes the impression on whatever it is that they rework. Because you are reworking things when you receive something that influences you, other people have already worked on it. You know, you're changing it.
You mean that you are like following some development of art started by some other artist?
Well, you have to be, unless what you're being influenced by is purely natural. But if it's part of culture, then it has been manipulated before it's reached you.
Do you believe in pure natural influence like?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're influenced by something as elemental as just the air and the water, then yeah. I mean, that is just that is just you. There were probably moments when I was making the previous film that I might not have been consciously thinking about anybody else's work. I might have just been really interested in the clouds that I was filming. You know.
Do you want to continue with this approach?
I think so. I'm interested in spending a lot more time in putting more work into gathering really, really original footage. You know, rather than rehashing images.
So you want to make your art even more abstract?
No, I think elemental is the word, which is kind of getting abstract because you're talking about. I'm just talking about things that have certain natural qualities. You know, you can like the book on display outside here about water. You know, it's once you start looking through it, it's water from all kinds of angles that you've never seen it before. You know, so you're getting, you know, you're getting kind of abstract, but you are getting into a pure element.
Yesterday I said that I feel that you're actually a genius. So what are you thinking about that today?
Well, yeah, I haven't forgotten that obviously, and I was thinking about it earlier, and I'm very flattered, and you know, I would have a normal instinct where I would maybe kind of resist it a little bit, but. Yeah, I would feel simultaneously flattered, but also a little bit apprehensive that it is something you start to feel it is something that you do need to live up to. Yeah, I mean, if after having said that, you might be disappointed if I never did anything else again.
Yeah, actually, this is the problem for like geniuses and other artists.
Is it not genii?
I mean, when they create something really astonishing, but then they can't repeat it.
But you see, this is where, and I think we touched on it a little bit last night. I think at some point I was saying that an idea that I had years ago was that I wasn't sure if it was correct to call a person a genius, as opposed to referring to someone that has achieved moments of genius or has created works of genius.
Do you feel today that you are really a genius, or at least a genius for now, right now?
No, what I feel today is that what I did was that the piece of work that I made did achieve some of the essential things that I wanted it to, because because when people talk to me about it afterwards, all the things that they were talking about, they were talking about nature, they were talking about elements, they were talking about about consciousness, they were talking about all of the nearly abstract things that I, wanted the work to be about. So today I feel it was successful.
Do you feel underestimated?
Underestimated by who?
By yourself.
Um,
Do you underestimate yourself?
I don't know.
Do you feel how are you changing the world with your art?
I think you can change. We were talking earlier about influence. That one of the most important things to me is how my work influences how people remember it. So I think that if again, it depends on the scale of your influence is different. A different question to the quality of your influence. So even if my influence isn't big, it seems to be the right influence.
Do you feel that you will remain in history?
Well, everybody remains in history.
No, I mean Wikipedia article.
I'm eligible for Wikipedia. I don't think anybody has written one yet. But I certainly wouldn't prevent them from doing that. I'd probably like to collaborate on it if they wanted to do that. Just make sure that it's correct. But I'm not. Maybe this relates to your earlier question about underestimating oneself. But I mean, I'm not in a huge hurry to take all the care of all that now.
Do you like Andy Warhol?
I do.
What do you think about this man?
I think the thing about Andy Warhol was that there have always been pop stars in art. Michelangelo was a pop star. Raphael was probably a pop star.
Titian? Titian?
I don't know. Possibly, probably. But I mean,
Da Vinci?
Yeah, probably.
But not Van Gogh.
No. Well, because he wasn't. His path was different. He wasn't a prominent person in society at the time.
Hemingway?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that all. Well, I think my favourite examples of what I would regard as pop stars of their time would be people like Arthur Conan Doyle and Charles Dickens. They were serialised. People were reading them every week in the newspapers. But I think so. I think there have always been pop stars, but
Also Mark Twain, probably.
Probably. But I think what Andy Warhol did was, and there were also a lot of notorious artists in the earlier 20th century. You could say Picasso was a pop star. You could say Duchamp was a pop star. You could say Jasper Johns and Rauschenberg were pop stars. But Andy Warhol was kind of the first really kind of super conscious pop star. Where it was he nearly everything he was doing was above that line.
Do you feel that right now artists like Andy Warhol exist?
They do, but they're probably a lot more common than they were in his prime.
What do you mean by common? So we don't know about them, right? So where are they?
I don't know.
Do you feel that you are such a person?
I would like to think that in some circles, some artist circles, I would be regarded as an artist. Maybe not a pop star, but
So do you want to reach the same level of a pop star as Andy Warhol?
That's very difficult to answer because everybody begins on a career path hoping that they will be successful, but you have to update your idea all the time of exactly what is success. So I don't know. I'd have to experience it to know whether it is what I want or not. And I think a very common path is for people who want that level of success. It has problems when you actually achieve it.
Do you want to create something like a factory?
I've actually been involved in, setting up groups that kind of have an idea like that, but not in terms of actually setting up a physical place. I mean, I have been involved in setting up groups and collectives of people, but they don't operate from a venue.
So they believe that doing it only online is sufficient?
Well, I mean, they all need. You see, I see a studio as quite a private thing. You know, I mean, I love studio groups and studio complexes, and I've been in many of them. You know,
So what studio do you mean?
or well, any studio.
Music studio or art studio?
Oh, sorry, I see what you mean. Well, you know, yeah, artist studio.
So like community or just single artist?
Well, I mean, you can have a studio co-op, or which is, you know, a number of artists all sharing their studio spaces and sharing, you know, a communal access and communal kitchen and so on and so on. Or you can simply have a group of artists that exist, either that just exist, you know, either on
internet,
on a website or something like that, but they all have their own studio setups. I think that's more interesting, because then you're not limited physically. Somebody can be in Australia, somebody can be in Canada, somebody can be in France, somebody can be in China. You know, the collective is not physically limited then. So that's what I would be more interested in.
yes, but we say I believe that factory actually changed the world because everybody was there, including non-artists, just pop stars, right? So then having just an online presence will not work.
Yeah, but you see, the difference with the factory was that it was in New York in the 60s.
But it was still pretty enough, actually.
It was what?
It was pretty enough for changing the world, because New York is one of the most influential cities.
Well, that's what I mean. You could set up a collective in the west of Ireland you could set up a collective in the west of Ireland in the mid 1980s, and you would not be transforming things quite as much as you might have been setting up the factory in New York.
That's what I'm saying.
You know,
New York is enough, actually. So then, but again, I'm saying that the collaboration, online collaboration, even if it's big, let's say 100 artists, 1,000 artists, but again, they're only on internet, and let's say they meet once a year, twice a year, and like drink beer, but still they're not changing the world, despite of the level of their art, right? So then we need factory somewhere, at least one factory, probably. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, in what way are people not changing the world when they do things remotely, and they are when they actually get together in a place like the factory? How does the venue make the difference?
So then I have a question as an answer. Do you feel the difference if I say that art has two forms, selfish and social?
Yeah, well, I think I know what you mean. I mean, there are, and this relates to what I was saying earlier about the difference between, you know, a studio, you know, group and an artist's private space, because there is a period in, I mean, there are certain practices, maybe more to do with painting and writing, for example, where there is a period where you have to be selfish about the work, while you are, you know, while it is gestating, and you can't share it prematurely, but you reach a point where you have to change it, and you have to then start to be selfless about it. Then you can share it, and then it becomes social. But there is a gestating period where you have to protect it.
Actually, by social, I mean a little bit different thing. I mean that social art is art that injects into society, which is supposed to be not art.
Yeah, but I mean, you are wasting your time if you don't inject your work into society, or if you don't try.
Okay, I mean, but aggressive injection, let's say, I consider my art as a thing that changes a regular, like average person into an artist. If your art is not like that, then it's just selfish art, let's say, right? So in this term, do you understand why a factory is needed? I mean, a factory is a place when art is injected into and change somebody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely the factory. If places like the factory are needed, I was just saying that might not be something that I would be particularly good at facilitating. You know,
running
There are. I know plenty of people, and they would do a much better job of it than I would.
So you like can't see yourself as a Warhol who just sits on the sofa and just observes what's going on, and sometimes talk to some people, and I don't know, like just actually observing there. You would see your role in this factory as more like just a guest, right? Because his art was in this, in just sitting there and just observing, and then.
Well, yeah, but you see, the other people that I mentioned kind of went down that road anyway. Duchamp basically just played chess for the second half of his career. There is a point where you do kind of sit back and go, okay, this is I'm just, I'm just guiding this, But I haven't been on that kind of path. I don't think I have anyway.
Okay.
But at the same time, some of my film shoots are quite like that. Sometimes I am actually
like Warhol movies.
No, like setting, like the shoot is a little bit like me setting things in motion and then sitting back and observing and kind of steering occasionally. If you're improvising the way we do, then it is a little bit like that, just for shorter periods.
Okay. Today I realized one interesting thing, maybe just an hour ago, that next such artist as Warhol, which I consider as the last artist, so next one could be the whole humanity. Can you imagine this?
I can actually. I can, because if you make contact with communities that are like that, which you will find in a place like this, like Merchants of Reality, or like a lot of the studio groups or the factory or studio groups you're talking about, if you spend enough time with them, you begin to forget. You kind of begin to. The fact that everybody around you is artistic in some way, it becomes the normality.
Yes, but I'm talking, do you believe that like thousands and millions of people could really start to turn into actually like artists, but in other way? I would call them like a true adults, right?
Yeah, but you are getting into a certain territory that actually looks back to non-commercial science fiction cinema of about 40 years ago or more, or it is a batch of early 70s, kind of like Logan's Run and Rollerball and so on. These films about
Woodstock.
Woodstock.
Like, can you also like include Woodstock in this list?
Or actually, there is also, I don't know if you're familiar with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
What exactly about this?
Well, there is a society in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that decided to get rid of everybody that wasn't artistic or educated.
Actually, I have a very interesting question.
The whole society collapsed, obviously.
Actually, I have a very interesting question to you about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My wife considers that this film, maybe a book also, was created only because of the number 42. What do you think about that?
Created only because of the number 42. Well, I don't know. I don't know how the whole thing evolved for Douglas Adams himself. I have read interviews where he talked about, hitchhiking around Europe in his college days, and lying in the middle of a field in Innsbruck and looking at the stars and kind of thinking, oh, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that'd be an interesting idea. And I always thought 42 was just some kind of random number, but I don't know. Maybe it's the number of the house where he lived. I'm not sure.
Actually, this number, my wife explained me. She thinks that this number just the same as entropy. So that's why this film was created, just to show that everything is just an entropy, it's just an anarchy. And anarchy can be represented with mathematical point of view as 42 or any other number. Number doesn't differ. It doesn't matter.
Well, that would have always been my interpretation of it, and I would imagine that the less significant the number, the stronger that point is. You know, like you're kind of compromising it if you choose a number that has special significance for yourself. You know, like if your personal lucky number is 28, then you shouldn't really use that.
Yeah, you can use whatever number. Like 13 might also represent anarchy.
You shouldn't actually be deciding on it yourself at all. You should choose. And actually, there is a very interesting part towards the end of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where one of the characters, Arthur Dent, wants to get a piece of information out of his mind from his subconscious. So he decides to introduce some random element. So he pulls out letters randomly from the Scrabble bag to see what they will shape. I think that's the kind of thing you're talking about, isn't it?
I think that's the kind of thing that our like creator was also thinking about when he was creating us, right? Because he added like injected randomness in us, in people, and also in the whole world, right? But we actually what we do is we try to structure this randomness, but we fail, of course, because we have all these wars and all this scarcity and all this stuff, and that's why I'm talking actually about that very good. Okay, we have two options for now, as I believe. We should go either with third World War, which will set us again in this state of creating, or we should all turn to an artist or to adults, if you want, and so that will also save us. Do you think kind of the same?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there are big gaps there for the same reasons we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. Because if everybody becomes an artist, then who does the more functional things?
Also artists, but their art will be in creating, I don't know, cars or something like that. Why not? Every car will be different.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of work to undo before you reach the point where you can actually just make a fresh start and everybody just be, you know. I mean, I think you're talking about. I mean, there are friends of mine that are successfully operate completely self-sufficient communities of people that operate things on a Let's kind of system and who grow everything themselves. They don't trade anything. You know, they've successfully, you know, gone down that road of operating a society that ideally you could argue the whole world should work by. But there still is a lot of work before reaching the stage that you're talking about, where we could actually just choose. Okay, let's all just live like that. I agree that is the right way to do it, but there is a lot of work to do to undo and the kinds of things that we're talking about here at this festival. You know.
Do you believe that such societies really at least attract enough traction? Because I think that people just think that they're crazy and they don't want to also follow the same.
Who are crazy?
Average people think. Average people think that such smaller communities who live in, let's say, somewhere in the mountains, in the villages, they build houses for themselves. They don't use money. They grow their own food. But other people who just live in skyscrapers and stuff, they think that such guys are just crazy, like homeless, and so then these communities can't like bring closer this way of, you know, like changing the world. Actually, this is the problem, I think.
Well, there are ways of making both of them work. I mean, you can have technology and high-rise living and cities without them and them being environmentally sound. I mean, you can do that, and there is a lot of progress being made in that direction as well.
Actually, I also think that the best problem, the most notable problem that these communities have are computers, because they can't produce computers. If they should either disconnect totally from the information, or they should find a way to produce computers themselves somehow.
Yeah, but like being self-sufficient is not the same as being environmentally conscious. You know, I mean, it's just a matter that, you know, I mean, okay, having talked about self-contained communities, like there are also communities that network with other communities that specialize in what they need, but that do it with principles that they agree with.
So anyway, it's just one level, right? They get rid of, let's say, money and McDonald's, but still they use something that was...
Money's a myth anyway.
Yeah. So it's just a level of like utopia, right? So that's what I'm talking about. I believe that the real change can only happen when like living in another way can start to become trendy, right? Like just like I don't know, like pop.
Yeah.
Before that, nothing will happen. Even if all artists, all like people like permaculture, all this stuff who live on farms,
Yeah.
whatever they do, the world is not changing because it's not trendy.
Yeah, but I mean, being more responsible to your surroundings, there can't be much harm in that becoming a trend.
So you're talking about that we should do like iteratively.
Well, I mean, let's say, with a very antisocial kind of, a very destructive wave in the late 70s, early 80s in Europe and England, which spawned punk and and football hooliganism and a lot of things. That is they're harmful trends. I mean, they bring change, and there can be good. There can always be good that comes out of change. But everybody becoming environmentally more educated and responsible, there can't be much of a problem with that becoming a trend.
So, by the way, do you support all this movement, like punk and anarchy?
Well, I was just observing before I came here, that I obviously associate San Francisco with Dirty Harry, and the famous line, "Go ahead, make my day," punk, which is from like 1972 or 1974, which is like 4 years before the punk movement began. So, what did it mean then?
But anyway,
Sorry, I went totally off the point. Off the point there. You see, I don't know if I can. It really does. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because I haven't spent enough time with. I'd actually need to go and really refresh my memory as to exactly what the fundamentals of anarchy actually is.
I mean, the anarchy is pretty much the same as entropy, right? So I think that people just believe that everything should be turned into like an anarchy, and so no rules, no like government and borders and stuff like that. I mean, do you support this at least like this energy of like destroying everything and I don't know.
Energy of destroying everything.
I think this is what punk is about, right? Or anarchy.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's also one thing that I relate to very much in painting is the distinction between a creative act and a destructive act that are both equally powerful as acts of expression.
And they probably collapse.
But they happen in a controlled environment, not in society. That's the difference.
Okay. So anyway, how you like see the future of humanity, of society?
The future of society. I think the future of society is in. I think education is the biggest factor. I think that education has been the biggest problem up until now.
So internet and all this online education will really save the world?
Well, you see, no, it's not the things that you can do to solve problems in the environment are not really what are going to save the world in itself, but it's the people. If the people are educated, and so that leads to the next generations being genuinely more concerned. I mean, in our lifetimes. I mean, I'm looking at seeing in my own lifetime, and all my friends are in the same situation of remembering sitting in the cinema beside our parents who were smoking. And then you go outside and you have your dinner and they're smoking and blowing smoke across the kitchen table, across the food, and they're pushing the cigarettes out in the food, and the kids are there sitting beside them, and they are oblivious. Like absolutely nobody does that now. If you light up a cigarette up anywhere, people are horrified, you know. And I think that's what I mean by education. That I think like 2 generations down the road, it'll be crazy the things that we even think are acceptable and normal that nobody will do.
But you're probably talking about
Well, I'm talking about development and education.
the lowest level of Maslow pyramid right now, right? Like using this cigarettes and with and food, you know, like this is very rude, right? Yeah. So then education allows people to reach next level of Maslow pyramid. But what is next, right? Because what I'm talking about, everybody should be on the highest level of Maslow pyramid, and that will save the world. Not only education, but probably education is the first step, actually. I'm not sure. I'm interested. What do you think? What, if needed, right? If you accept my concept that everybody should be on the highest level, what will actually bring people? Let's say education will help to achieve, let's say, second or third level of pyramid Maslow. But what is needed to reach further?
Well, I think that being as mobile as possible will be a matter of survival, which really does mean being completely non-materialistic.
So you said survival. So you think that things are that bad?
I think the more I think the more material possessions you have, the more in danger you are.
So we should all turn into totally non-material oriented creatures, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And what will we do next?
Next, how do you mean?
After reaching that?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know what that mindset's going to be like.
How about Star Trek?
No, I think the future that I visualize in terms of reaching a mindset that we don't relate to is actually kind of what the end of my own film is about.
So you don't believe in in the fact that, not fact, but I have a theory that our the most proper future is to start building spaceships and go explore other planets. Do you also believe in that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was talking to somebody else last night about how simple space travel actually is. That a lot of people really don't realize that it's actually more difficult to get to the bottom of the ocean than it is to get to the moon. You know, because once you leave the Earth's gravity, it's so easy to travel. You know, you don't need power, you don't need anything.
So you think we're being brainwashed about the thing that we can't reach Mars even right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also, I mean, surprisingly enough, I mean, for somebody that is interested in science fiction and is interested in cosmology and is interested in the Earth, I'm not really interested in the Mars missions. I'm not really excited about the possibility of people walking on Mars, because it's kind of just, I mean, we're already walking around on this one. You know,
and doing shit.
I think I think it is. I think it's totally unnatural
to explore other planets.
Yeah.
Maybe to explore other galaxies. But it's pretty much the same, right?
Well, yeah, no, but you see, the thing is, when you talk about traveling any further than within our own solar system, you're talking about traveling faster than light, which, by our understanding, as the moment, is not possible. So, if you're talking about humanity reaching a point where they have that technology, then you're in the same place again, where it's just a mindset that we can't relate to now.
Actually,
so I don't think we can speculate about that.
Actually, I feel like you have a very interesting point that every solar system has only probably one planet with such creatures as humans, and these humans should not go further than the border of this exact solar system.
Well, it's not even a matter of should, but I mean. There's nothing in our own history that suggests to us that we can.
how about the science of aliens? You know, like all these pyramids and stuff.
Well, you see, there's two conflicting feelings that I have about that. One is the very simple fact that any cosmologist or scientist or most people would observe, which is that with this sheer size of the universe, that even if the level of intelligent life is very low, there is still an abundance of it. But I'm also, and this is another thing that might surprise people that I talk to about these things more often. I'm not adverse to the idea that there is no other life in the universe.
So again, do you believe in aliens?
That's what I'm saying. I'm totally split.
You're not sure?
It's totally possible. It's possible that it's very, very likely that there is an abundance of intelligent life in the universe, but it's also possible that there isn't.
How could it be? Like, the universe is so big. Why should we be the only type of like intelligent, creatures?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I actually kind of have to stop thinking about it at that point, because you're into this whole question of this whole thing of probability and how likely something is, and the simple fact is that how likely something is doesn't make any difference to the fact that it is possible that it doesn't happen.
I mean, also my friend told me that he thinks that there is a probability that humans are just one of the... Actually, okay. When I was traveling to Grand Canyon with my wife, and we were observing the Grand Canyon layers, and suddenly we realized that probably we see the layers of other civilizations. So this civilization, then this, and we will also form just a layer on Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
All we, and then the next civilization will go like over our heads, and just observe Grand Canyon and see, this level is just 1 million years ago. It's pretty recent,
Well, you see, quite often you hear people say, if there were aliens, or if there was life on such and such a moon or a planet, then why isn't there any evidence of it? And I find that quite difficult, because all you have to do is watch aerial footage of a tsunami hitting a coastline, and it's very clear that even at our level of accelerated climate, there are natural events that completely wash away evidence of anything. I mean, 600-mile-an-hour winds and like 40-foot high tsunamis, there wouldn't even be much left of your average capital city.
But not all cities are on the coastline, right?
No, they're not. But if you're talking about certain things that continue to increase, we're only seeing winds of 100 miles an hour. I don't think we've even seen really in our own common experience winds of 200 miles an hour. But the Martian.
So we could have something like a great flood from a Bible, right?
Yeah, well, but you see, the thing is that we simply have not actually experienced the reality of climate conditions that have existed on the Earth before and have existed elsewhere.
The Earth could wash us away very easily. So we should wash us.
In a very roundabout way, that's what I'm saying, is that it is completely possible that there will be no evidence of us at all.
In one day?
Not in one day, maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so all we have is just I don't know, very like an air. All the cities, all our technologies.
I mean, we have left debris. We've left a lot of rubbish on Mars and on the Moon.
Unfortunately, which are really remain in history.
Yeah, there's a lot of chewing gum and crisp packets in the Sea of Tranquility.
Okay. Do you feel happy?
I feel happy as long as I absorb things that I like. art that I like and food that I like.
So just absorb or produce also.
Um, yeah, I haven't thought about it that way.
So you think that the majority of what you do is just absorbing like food or something like that?
No, I think I think I'm always I think it's both ways. I think I'm always taking things in, but I'm always producing things as well.
In the exact same amount and quality?
Not necessarily, no, no.
So but wait, we all should like transform energy from one form into another somehow, right? We could not like have more energy or less energy than we have, right? We cannot collect like energy, like condensate energy, right? So probably what you produce actually is exactly what you consume, like, and everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting. You're just reminding me now that you can talk about energy flow. As an artist, you can talk about energy flow. I mean, as a dietitian, you can talk about your energy flow. As a therapist or somebody who works with people emotionally, you can talk about energy flow, and you can talk about blockage of energy as well. And it does happen artistically and emotionally. If you don't let something out and it builds up, it can cause problems, So I think you do have to keep you do have to keep the channels open all the time. You should go to your studio all the time. Even if you sit there for days and you don't do anything, you're just, when it does start to happen, you'll be in the right place.
Okay. I feel that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah.
I think I don't think we were talking about things in such a way that we were trying to reach any conclusions. I think we were just really just kind of swimming around, but I think it was good.
Yeah, this is enough. Maybe in a year we can repeat it.
We'll try it again, yeah. Yeah. I'll come back for the festival next year.
Yeah. Or I can go to Ireland. Why not?
Yeah.
I've never been there, so I want to go.
We can make some joint applications.
Yeah, sure, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. And how long is that now?
It's like 15 minutes.